This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Rough Greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-Day Challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. You know, often on my show, I like to talk to obviously interesting people and people that are doing things that other people aren't, right? It's all about the original, authentic perspective when you're listening to Live Your True Life Perspectives. And so when I stumble upon somebody that I find very interesting with a random cool calling that I particularly am interested in, I definitely put them on the show. Joining me live here in studio, Nancy Coblenz joins me. She is the founder and CEO of Rebel Role Model. Rebel Role Model is really cool because she goes around and interviews all over the country, and I know that I'm going to be on her show soon as well, interviewing some amazing CEOs who are rebellious and doing things their way and not the prescribed way that we've all been told. So basically living outside of the box and doing amazing stuff. Nancy, great to have you in studio. How you doing?
Thank you. I am doing so great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. This is fun.
Yes.
Yay. So tell my listeners a little bit more about Rebel Role Models and kind of how you started with that.
Yeah. So I started Rebel Role Model about a year ago, and it all started with the podcast. So the idea came from traveling internationally and really just sitting next to really cool, interesting, intriguing people, having great conversations about their lives, their successes. And I figured, well, why don't I just record this conversation and maybe someone else will learn from it as well. And so it kind of started with the podcast where I learned that to become successful nowadays, you inherently have to be different and disrupt. And no two successes are the same. And so I really kind of took that in and said, well, you kind of have to be a rebel, but you kind of have to be a role model too to show others, you know, what a successful life led by is like. And we just kind of started with that. From there, it's now grown into a digital magazine and a television segment, traveling all over the country, really interviewing and just diving deep into people that, you know, honestly didn't think they'd become successful originally, but found that success naturally came into their lives after they kind of found their own true calling and their own rebellious side, I guess.
I understand that, Nancy. You know, it's interesting. I think when you go through life and you do things differently, and I know that I can attest to this, it can be almost like overwhelming because when you're not doing everything the same way as everybody else does by the book, and they look at you like, oh, you're crazy, and on top of that, they kind of go, what's up with you? What makes you different? And you begin to question inherently sometimes the things about yourself, and you begin to kind of get hard on yourself and tough on yourself because you're like, well, why didn't I just do it the easy way? Why didn't I just go this direction? Why did I have to go up current so much? And I understand it, and it's beginning to pay off in my life, but I mean, there's years there that it was just constant. It's still going on, constant work.
Yeah, so I kind of find that those that try to lead with their individuality and their unique skill set, they are swimming upstream, right? So at the beginning, there is a very hard path to finding that first success. So there's a very common streak where those that are rebellious are also inherently attracted to risk. So because they're risk takers, they also understand that failure might also happen, right? Like, it's not going to pay out every single time you take that risk. And honestly, the biggest risk is becoming and kind of following your own footsteps, right? Because you're forging your own pathway. No one else has done it that way. So you're literally making it up as you go.
That's interesting you say that. It's so true. And the thing that kind of bugs me, and you might get a laugh out of this, is that you always have those people that say, hey, who is your role model, or who do you talk to, or, who is your, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're looking up to that person that gives you all this advice and helps you out. And I said, I don't have one. And I think you and I talked about this a few weeks ago when we were hanging out, and it's so true. It's like some people just don't have that, and other people seem to have all these people that they can talk to and ask questions to. But I think when you're doing it your own way and you're breaking the mold and you're trying to do stuff that TV, for example, people even pay to be on the TV. Right? So that's a totally different type of business model than any other business model. Nobody's going to sit there and show up to the law firm every day and pay, the partners to work there.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But when it comes to TV and radio and all that stuff, these are industries, and I think a lot of people out there don't realize this. And let's go on and put the FYI out there right now, the 411. A lot of people don't realize that people pay to be on these types of things. Okay, so if somebody's paying their money to be on there to work, it's really hard. And there's not a lot of people that you can look up to or get help from. One, there's not a lot of people doing it. Mm-hmm. And two, there's a lot of competition. And even if you're not competitive, I'm a person that's all about the village. It takes a village to do something. It takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a village to do anything. Why do we need to compete? But a lot of people in this landscape feel competitive in nature that they do not want to offer any advice.
Right. So that comes down to finding your tribe, right? The village, and finding like-minded people. So me personally, I do have mentors, but I have seasonal mentors. The way I see it is I'm always growing and progressing and pushing the envelope for myself, for my company, for people that we interview, that kind of stuff. And there are certain times and places that I'll have specific mentors, but then we kind of outgrow each other. And that's totally fine. When it comes down to the competitive nature, I believe that there really is enough economy and resources for everybody. And those that are competitive in nature that will shut themselves down or away from other people are inherently shutting themselves out of their own opportunity, right? I see it as we both are mentoring and helping each other out, right? I might have a skill set or some knowledge or some context that you don't have, and vice versa. And so if I'm so competitive that I'm going to say, well, I'm not even going to talk to you because you're going to be stealing my business, then that mindset itself is going to shut you out of your own personal opportunity. So I don't want to associate myself in that sort of situation because that's only going to bring me down too. And I'm here really trying to bring a network of people where we're really supporting each other.
Well, I like that. And it's hard to find that.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Well, and on top of that, though, there's a lot of people that say they're like that and like have learned that they're all talk. And I've learned personally, like, there's a lot that are all talk. And when it comes down to like put your money where your mouth is, or like really help out in a situation, then like they totally back up. And I'm like, where did you go?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here for you, man. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, I don't know where they went.
Exactly.
I agree with you. I believe that it's all about doing instead of talking. It's about being that example. It's about going that extra mile. I had a call today from a friend of mine. His partner is going in for surgery, and he has cancer.
Wow.
And it's interesting when you get that text message, and, you know, the first thing everybody wants to say is, yeah, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to help you out. You know what I mean? But you really got to think about that. And you got to go, hey, how can I help? At what capacity can I help? And I responded back with, hey, I'm going to be in town XYZ times. If you need me to do this, I can do that, you know, and this is genuine. Because I think a lot of times maybe we have the intent to help.
Yeah.
But it's how can we help and where can we help?
Exactly.
And then I think when it comes to career, you're right. You got to find people that, I mentor students and I mentor other folks. And you and I have talked about this before. And I'm totally happy to do that, you know, and I like doing that. But you're right. There's a lot of folks out there that can talk about mentoring, but whether or not that's what they're really doing or even putting forth that type of energy, well, it's to be seen.
Yeah, and I also believe that some people that might have also just time management issues, like mainly saying that, yeah, I genuinely want to help you, but when it comes down to the timing aspect, they're really unable to commit to it. And so for me, I'm really obsessed with my time management, where if I say I'm going to do something or say that I'll dedicate an hour a week to you or to some organization or whatever, I make that happen, which means then I have to say no to other things. So it's also prioritizing.
Priorities are a big thing.
Yeah.
We can be at the top of one's list or the bottom of the list or somewhere in the middle. And I've realized depending on where that is depends on how much time you get.
Exactly.
So let me ask you, what was the first interview you did on your show?
All right. First interview is a Dallas local venture capitalist. His name is Stephen Hayes. He is a managing partner of Deep Space Ventures. And since we just closed out the 2017 year, he just finished his 19th round of funding for his 19th company, which is huge in the Dallas market. So I really dove into his mindset of being a venture capitalist, but also his non-traditional mindset and perspective on life and work balance. But he started off on a traditional path where he actually went to West Point. And then from there got into finance, investments, that kind of stuff. And then was like, I think I want to veer and go left and kind of see if I can help out other companies. And started with a friend, Deep Space Ventures, and it's grown to be the most credible venture capital firm here in Dallas. So he was a great first interview. If you guys listen to it, it's hilarious. We go through a lot of random topics, like him surfing in San Diego, things like that. So
nice. Do you surf?
No, I am a skater, snowboarder, and I actually was a motocross racer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, wait a second. Did you have any boxing experience as well?
Yes, I was a pro boxer, AMA, Golden Gloves, and yeah, that training, I think, was what kind of set me up for becoming my own entrepreneur. Because, I mean, when you're...
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add rough greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
You're training 6 hours a day for 3 years straight and physically taking punches and pushing beyond your quit is really what it taught me, is that you think you're going to quit right now. Actually, no, you can do a little bit more. And then the more that you train yourself that you can push beyond that mentality or that wall, then you're like, dude, I can do anything.
Let's talk about boxing for a little while.
Okay.
Okay, so when did you start?
Back in 2010.
Okay, and what was the inspiration to begin to be a professional boxer?
I found that it was probably the most difficult thing for my body type and just the effort. For me, it was like, I can't do that. And then because I said I can't do it, I was like, well, I'm going to do it now. I'm one of those people where, like, if I think that, oh, yeah, I can't do that, then I'm like, oh, you just said I can't? Okay, we're going to make sure you can now. Mm-hmm. So that's literally how it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was one of the toughest boxing matches you were in?
Probably my first one. First punch from the opponent, she actually made my nose bleed, and I kept fighting through it with blood everywhere, and I lost, but you know what? I still went through it and was able to push through it.
Were you like, what the heck? You just punched me. That hurt.
Yeah, no, there was so much adrenaline pumping that I didn't notice until I started feeling something like cold and wet on my face. And then I kind of brushed my boxing glove on and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, it was one of those like, oh no, you didn't. And I like went straight for her.
Wow. Wow. Okay, cool. So, I have to ask the question, what did your mom think or parents think about this boxing idea?
Yeah. So they know I am inherently most comfortable taking really insane risks. So I started riding motorcycles when I was 15, and I'm an only child. And, my mom having her only kid go out there doing nutso things, she kind of got used to it eventually. But when I told her about boxing, she was like, no, not happening. And then I kind of warmed her up to it and was like, okay, well, I'll just train and like, I'll just train indoors. And then it turned into, well, but I'm kind of getting good at this. Can I just have one fight? And then it kind of grew from there.
Wow. Well, I've never boxed before. I never did. I've never done the original Fight Club or anything like that.
No. You don't.
But it sounds like fun. I mean, I just don't like to get hit.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you kind of mentally train yourself to say, well, if I'm throwing or giving it, then you have to be prepared to take it as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that also helped me in relationships, which is a random thing, because it really made me understand the give and take and really the negotiations you're having between two people. And so for me, it actually helped me specifically with my relationship. We're going on 6 years now to get through some of those times where it's like, well, I had a bad day. Well, I guess you're having a bad day. It's a give and take.
Congratulations, 6 years.
Thank you. Yeah.
Nice. How did y'all meet?
Motorcycle racing.
Nice.
Yeah. So he was a professional motorcycle racer, but street racing. So they were the ones going 200 miles an hour around a track. It's funny. I think that's too scary, but then he can't do the whole jumping 50 feet in the air in dirt in motocross.
Wow.
So we're afraid of each other's own sport, I guess.
I don't want to do either one of those. Count me out. As long as I'm safely on the sidelines where no motorcycle can hit me, I will be okay.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Do you go out there all the time? How many times do you do this a week?
Yeah, so it would be a weekly thing. I'd go out to different parks, different racetracks. And then with him, he had to train an hour and a half away from our hometown. But also where we grew up in California, we were near Mulholland, and we were somewhere called the Famous Snake, where a lot of professional and amateur motorcyclists and enthusiasts would go out there and show up in their nice shiny sport bike. You'll also see Jay Leno every weekend with his nice, fun new car with his mechanic driving by, waving at everybody.
How cute.
Yeah.
That's cool. How many cars do you think Jay Leno has now? 200?
No, he's like well into like 1,000.
Really?
Yeah, no, he has a very large collection.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I'd feel weird about that. The thing about it is I put my heart and soul in everything I do. And so to have 1,000 cars, that'd be like a piece of my heart. And I mean, like I wouldn't have any heart left. I mean, what do you do at that point? I mean, because I'd have to see them and drive them all the time to feel good about it, you know?
Yeah.
Couldn't just have like a museum or collection. It's just, I feel like it's not, I don't know, it's just kind of odd.
You're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I get you.
Because I think to me, a car has like human qualities, and I named my own car. I named every one of my cars, and it's a big deal. And any cars I've ever had, I only have one car right now, guys. Okay, because I only have time for one car, you know. And I know that eventually maybe I might have two, one that breaks down all the time and one that doesn't. But I just feel like, you know, in life we have to experience and create all the time. And I just feel like if there was a car just sitting there not being used, I feel like it's just kind of like, it's just not being used.
Yeah.
And a car wants to be driven.
Absolutely. Or the project car. So that's what I grew up doing, was always having a project car, building it up into something super cool, fun, and loud, and really obnoxious, and then sell it and then move on to the next project.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So now I can get an idea of why you started Rebel Role Model.
Exactly. Like, this is where I inherently am rebellious. I mean, I'm working on becoming a role model, but I just believe that there were other people out there that had similar mentalities of taking risks, not necessarily with sports and things like that, but like in business, right? Like, I think the biggest risk out there is on a business, right? Because you're basically betting your whole livelihood on your ideas and like what you put into it. Like, you literally will be fed and housed by your ideas and your effort. Like, that to me is the biggest risk.
It is. It's a huge risk.
Yeah.
I get it. And it's interesting. I always find it interesting because I know that eventually the payout will show up. I mean, you get like a big heart and soul payout all the time. You know, sometimes it's harder than others, you know, but at the end of the day, you look at it and you say, okay, I'm doing pretty much what I love except for some busy work that I'm not a big fan of. I mean, there's a lot of back office stuff that I wish I didn't have to do. And eventually when I actually make some money, I could hire somebody to do that and cover that basis. But I think in the process, all the learning and all the grunt work and all the walking uphill both ways, you know, in the snow, it was freezing cold. And you go, okay, well, I learned a lot about a lot of things. And I know how to do everything. So you can teach somebody and train someone different than most people, I think, when things are kind of given to them. There's certain things that just kind of come to play, and they haven't had that experience where they have to do everything. I mean, I can do behind the camera, in front of the camera, shooting, lighting, anything. But I learned all that, so people don't even realize. And I think you know what I mean. When you know how to do all that, and you've been trained on all that, and you even went to school for most of that too, people don't have an idea that you know how to do that. So you're not ever going to get stuck in a situation that you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. So what I think, especially when you're starting a business, is you really need to know all the ins and outs of all the little mundane things, because at the end of the day, you are your own fail-safe. So that's how I see it, is like, I can always hire somebody to do X, Y, and Z type of tasks or assignments. But at the end of the day, if they leave and there's some sort of emergency, I need to cover no matter what, because it is my business and my responsibility.
What do you think nowadays? Okay, so, you know, with the rebel role model concept, what do you think really defines, besides doing things your own way, what's another characteristic of somebody that you think really fits that mold?
I think someone that has an eye for finding gaps in either business, social interactions, education, things like that, where they're someone that has a really good eye of saying, there's really no one doing this very well or successfully or properly. I can do that.
I like that. That's good. Yeah, because you see a lot of people taking on the ideas and they just repeat someone else's idea. I'll give a good example, and I think you here in the particular city that we're in right now recording, there's a bike share group company. So there's what happened is there's a company that started a bike share, and they put all these bikes on every corner and every street in downtown, right? And then another bike company came and they did the same thing, but their bikes are different colored. And then another one came and they did a different color bike, and now there's a fourth one coming, okay? And it's like I get one. There's a lot of projects out in the world that could use financial backing. Why we went with this, don't know. Not really understanding why. How somebody could raise hundreds of millions of dollars on a bike share idea when in China there are 2 or 3 huge landfills that are only full of bikes from bike share companies. So it's already happened years ago, right? We already seen this happen in China. Now we're doing it here in the United States. But it's like, who can keep following each other? I mean, it's like it gets tiring. It gets tiring, and I think you might agree with me on this, is that when you're seeing somebody and they're just replicating the same crap, it's like, at what point in time does somebody call a spade a spade? Right.
Yeah, I think this is where I think more of the statistical, analytical, empirical data-minded person can reasonably say, well, this bike sharing company is only making X, Y, and Z per month on revenue. I can double that because I've identified twice as many people that'll ride the bike, so therefore I'll win at this game, as opposed to just, oh, hey, I'm passionate about bike sharing and I'm going to start with that type of perspective and hopefully grow it into a greater mission, right? Instead of a mission-based type of business, it's really just a strategic, hey, I want to have the exit, I want to be acquired in 5 years, that's the plan.
Yeah, you find that often. A lot of people aren't in it for the long haul.
Right.
And I think also giving back. I think, like you said earlier, when people are talking about mentoring and they have like this, this, I guess whatever they're saying, kind of like the elevator speech of, oh, I help everybody, but when they don't, and it's like, at what point in time are some of these people...
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add rough greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
Also giving back.
Right.
And I think that constitutes somebody that's doing things their own way too, because oftentimes giving back it's more work, which is fine, but actually can be quite rewarding. But I think a lot of people fall, short of that and say, it's just not, I don't have time for that.
I think you kind of have to own up to your own reality, right? Like if you set out and said that I want to mentor 3 people a month, you need to promise yourself you do that, because the reward isn't just for those people you're mentoring. It's really for you too. I mean, I really take any sort of interaction or connection I have with a new person rewarding in itself, that I will always learn something new. It might not be that I will learn something in the business aspect or educationally. Maybe it's in just human interaction. Like I'm always going to learn something new. And if you understand that, then I think it'll be easier to keep your promises and appointments rather than flaking on them. I think, and that's another thing for me, like a pet peeve is flaking, is that we will eventually just say, yeah, no, we'll totally get lunch or whatever. And then we keep rescheduling. And it's like, okay, well, are we really going to do this? Or did you just want to say you're doing it? Now I'm calling your bluff. So.
Okay, let's talk about flaking in general then.
Okay.
How do you think, give me your advice on how to deal with that. If somebody's dealing with someone that's constantly talking a big game, they're constantly telling them they're going to help them out, whatever. What would be your advice to give to that person to either cut bait or to be directly very honest with that other person? What would you say?
Okay, so for me personally, because I deal with this a little bit, is I see it as a different form of rejection. So it's like a soft rejection as opposed to a hardcore, yeah, no, I'm not going to talk to you, or I don't have time for you. It's a, sure, let's totally do this. And then they'll just keep rescheduling or saying, oh, sorry, I can't make it this week. I'll tell you next week, what date or whatever. And then you get ghosted. To me, that's just another form of rejection. And to me, it's not meant to be then, right? Like I'm obviously not that valuable, quote unquote, to them to actually make the time. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm just going to say, well, it just wasn't really meant to be. And for me, I see rejection as every rejection you have is closer to that yes or closer to that opportunity. So good. I got another rejection out of the way. Let's move on to the next one.
Wow, I like that. I think a lot of people, though, take it personally.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
In reality, when you have somebody that, you want to spend time with, and I think a lot of times, you're right, it is a good thing that you're rejected, and it's like if you keep forcing the envelope, eventually maybe that rejection will turn into a non-rejection, but at what cost? And
right.
Then does that end up working out for you? But yeah, I think it's hard. It's a human condition thing. People want other people to like them and care about them. But I do agree with you. It's a soft rejection.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what people see as valuable. And that's an interesting observation when you're dealing with people.
Yeah. So I personally used to take it personally a lot. And I think it's kind of similar to looking for jobs. It's like, getting out of college, you're trying to find your first awesome job, and all you get are these no's, or not even a callback, not even an email saying, hey, sorry, we don't like you or anything. I see that as very similar to this connection with people and then the flaking part, right? That's just kind of a soft way of saying, yeah, no, I don't really like you. But I mean, I also see it as I actually have had personal experiences where people that I really wanted to connect with or say I really wanted to interview and it just never panned out. To me, I took that and said, okay, Nancy, what's the bigger picture here? Is this really going to move the needle forward for a rebel role model or for my own personal mentorship connections? Maybe, maybe not. But that also made me reorient and say, okay, is there even a more influential person that I can connect with? Now this made room for that person. And so then I kind of rework the game in that sense.
So maybe you weren't going as high as you needed to go.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, because I think a lot of times in life, we have issues with people that don't give us the time of day, people that tell you one thing, do another, people that talk and just don't stop talking. I've known some people, and I love them, God bless them, but they'll talk about anything for as long as they want to talk about it. And, they're still working on that screenplay, they're still doing that. And that's fine. And that's the way that they live their life. And I'm not going to make judgment calls. But I think one thing to bring to the table is, be cognitive of the people that you're spending time with and understand that, the people you spend the most time with, you're going to rub off on them and they're going to rub off on you. And you got to be cognitive of that. And you can't take things personally. If you know that person is flaky, but that's just their, there's just that's their style, then you got to accept that as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's something too, is that integrating business and relationships, I mean, you can't really have a black or white. There is a gray area where you become friends. You actually get invested into their families and their kids and what they're going through personally. And so there are times where, of course, I'll feel a little hurt if something happens and I really wanted to go out and celebrate something and they said, oh, sorry, I'm going to have to flake on you. But I just find that there has to be times where I emotionally invest into a relationship in that sense, and then others where I read into it and say, okay, this is strictly a business relationship, and I won't have as much emotional ties to it.
Let me ask you, okay, so when we look at knowing somebody, and I always think this is very interesting, I'm a big believer in knowing as much about a person as possible before I really throw in all my trust factor. Yeah. So that means like getting to know who they are, knowing where they're from, visiting their office, going to their home, those kind of things. And I think it's interesting because I feel like the reason why we have to do it, obviously, is that people are not just one dimension, and so once you start seeing the different dimensions of somebody, you understand them better. And it's interesting though. I mean, haven't you ever been over to someone's house for the first time and if you would have like been there on week one of meeting them, it would have put a lot of things in perspective,
Absolutely.
And you're standing there kind of going, wow, good, bad, and different. You know what I mean? It could be really great, but it's like getting to know all those different factors of somebody kind of paints that picture. And I think that a lot of times we're going with that one-dimensional thought. We see that person in one space, and we make a judgment call or a decision based on that one space application.
Yeah, I really think that people lead different, I guess, patterns of behavior in different settings and different environments. So it's kind of like, I agree with you in a sense, like if we're only meeting at the office, I only get to see like your office personality. Mm-hmm. But if we get to meet for happy hour, I'm going to see a little bit of a different personality. And then obviously I'm going to see someone totally different if we're going to the park with your family and kids, right? And all those different elements make up who that person is. And of course I can determine, well, is this a business relationship, a personal relationship, both? Is this someone that I truly connect with where now I can become, have them as a mentor, things like that, where you wouldn't necessarily get just by having that one office meeting in that sense. And, for me too, like I'm going to talk totally different here now versus when you're going to see me like out on my bike versus if we're in the gym or if we're going to do Pilates. Like I have different personalities in that sense because I'm a different mindset, a different goal of that time. So
that makes total sense. Yeah, and I think that when you start getting to know somebody's factors, like this way and that way and this dimension and that dimension, it makes somebody very human. And I think that if a lot of people saw those dimensions of other people, they could really understand people. And I think a lot of times because we don't know those dimensions, because we make assumptions based on the things that we don't know, because we make assumptions based on what we think is real or who we think they are, I think a lot of times leaves us kind of holding the bag in that sense.
And I think it builds empathy. I think that's a big deal in a sense when it comes to like business deals and partnerships, mm-hmm. that we're in a day and a place now, especially with having information at our fingertips, that we can easily just like cut someone out of our lives, and building that whole story around who that person is gives you that opportunity to be empathetic to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's A, good karma points. And B, I mean, that really helps you understand just human nature. And I think it's really good for you introspectively, right? Like, so if they're going through something, then maybe you should reflect internally on yourself too and say, hey, am I going through something similar? Or is there something in my past that I've gotten through something similar as them and I can help them and I can reach out to them? And I think that's kind of like the holy grail of a type of relationship.
What are some of the challenges that you've overcome in the last 365 days?
So the first one was figuring out a certain business. In 2016, I was in technology. I did educational technology where I sold hardware to schools nationwide. So I was a technology consultant, and I was super geeky and nerdy about all that stuff, but decided it was time to move on to the next, venture. And so I knew it was going to be some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor. And I had 7 different business ideas, literally on like butcher paper on my wall in my house. And for the first 2 months, staring at them every single day and going, okay, which one is it? And doing a lot of research, a lot of marketing research, a lot of data analytics, a lot of just like, what's the number one venture capitalist backed company, to like things like that. And, it naturally, I should have gone into something more technology based because I had the contacts, I had all the contracts already in place. I knew the people, I knew everybody that you needed to like start a really successful business in that area. But my heart wasn't into it. And so I came to being comfortable again in that risk-taking mode. And I said, well, what am I most passionate about? And it's really that I love connecting with strangers. Like that to me is like my energy source, is that I'm able to travel and talk to strangers.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Ever notice your dog slowing down and having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add rough greens to your dog's food for 90 days and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Rough Greens here, and I invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-Day Challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch your dog a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to roughgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. That's ruffgreens.com. Use promo code 90day. You just cover the shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens.
Strangers, I don't know what it is. It's like genuinely learning and really understanding another person's life challenges, obstacles that they go through. For some reason, to me, like that's the coolest thing ever. So that's where the podcast started, right? Like I just wanted to start interviewing a bunch of people, and I was like, okay, well, but there's got to be a business here. And so really put down the whole business plan. And I mean, here we are today. So that was the biggest challenge, number 1. I think challenge number 2 is someone like me where I just have so many different passions. The second challenge is actually committing and sticking it out with one thing. So for me, like Rebel Role Model, I am sticking this out, and like to me, because I think I'm driven by that passion. So I think that's why I'm sticking it out. But like there were times that I have such great ideas and I would start doing something a month later. I'm like, just kidding. So, but this one I'm like, this is it.
That's cool. I like connecting with people too. That's one of the big things. It's funny. I like to connect with people and be able to talk to anybody. It becomes, second nature. I'm sure with you the same. And that's the thing. It's just the way it is. It's funny. I was in New York years ago, and I remember my husband looked at me, and he goes, "Seriously?" He goes, "Are you going to make eye contact and talk to everybody?" He goes, "Because, in a couple of blocks, you're going to lose your voice." Because I might have spoken to like 250 people. He's like, "What am I going to call you, Crocodile Dundee now?" And that's like the life that I've lived my whole life,
Yeah.
and rarely, and I like it. And I like being able to talk to anybody, and I think that's cool. And I think, like you're saying, it's about you can have a million great ideas, but what can you stick to and what has longevity? And I think that's something we have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I also identified that those that are successful are the ones that do stick it out. And it's really those obstacles and challenges that you overcome is what makes you stronger, right? More agile, more nimble, and more competitive in whatever space you're in, right? It's at the end of the day, it's a war of attrition. And so that's where I you got to start somewhere, right? And then from there, being able to be seen and then identified as the number one out of your competitors.
Yeah, I know about the stick-to-itness. That's something, and it's like right when it's getting like hard and tough is the times you really stick through it, and then there'll be lots of hard and tough times, And I've had people come into my studio in the office, whatever, they want to be on the radio and they want to do this and that, and you kind of start telling them kind of the way it is, and the the radio industry is a little different from podcasting in the fact that it's tough, and podcasting's tough too. But it's like you got to stick in there, you got to get in there, you got to like literally make a hole, blow down a door, get in, and then try to basically create something from nothing,
right?
And then create and continue to gain more and more coverage. And I remember I've told several people how to do this, and literally you could see that they were like stressed out by the time I finished, like the first paragraph of my conversation. They're like, "Huh? I thought I could just get the show," and you kind of go, no, I'm trying to help you out. And when I first got into radio, nobody was there to help.
Really?
No. People, it's different. It's very competitive, and you know it too. It's very competitive. It's a very competitive by nature thing. And that's just not the way I roll. I think that there's room. I mean, I could have 5, psychologists on my show, and being a psychologist, I wouldn't be upset about it. Because I think everybody would bring something different to the table. Now, most people would never put another person on their show that has the same background as they do. You see what I'm saying? Because it's this competition. So instead of seeing that you have your own gifts and your own direction and that you bring stuff to the table that's unique, instead a lot of people see it as competitive. And it's almost like the same as like, Nancy, like a surgeon. You have surgeons, like even a plastic surgeon, for example, is really good at certain things. Right, and so they're not trying to be everything. They're not trying to be the nose, the boob, the face guy. It's like, one person's like the face guy, one person's the hand guy, one person's the woman that's amazing at what XYZ, whatever. But I think a lot of times it's hard for people because of the titles to come together sometimes.
Yeah, so that tells me that they're more of generalists and don't actually have really a specific expertise in a certain thing, right? And so if you're worried about Jack and Jill that are doing similarly what you're doing, but you can't identify what their expertise knowledge is in, then that's an issue, right? Then that's personally, you got to figure out, well, what am I good at in that respect, as opposed to, hey, I'm good at everything, right? And that's really, specifically like in marketing, there are so many different specialties in marketing that you can do. Yet when you say I'm a marketing agency and I do everything, then that tells me that you're not spending the right amount of time and resources to get me, if I was a client, the proper service in that respect.
I agree with that. You're right. So people need to find specialization to some degree.
Exactly. And I think once you are confident in your own specialization or confident in your pathway of a specialization, then you'll understand that there's room for everybody, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, and that's something that I've tried to explain. I think that's a really good way of explaining it. And I like that because I'm going to use that. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, golly. And I think that's with anything that you do. And no matter what you do, I think, whether you're running the household, you got 3 kids at home and you're running the household and your spouse is out doing XYZ and, and working all the time outside of the house. I mean, you got to be happy in the role that you play. And you got to feel good about what you bring to the table. Because, making dinner and being there for the kids is just as important as anything else. And I think also it's about that self-esteem, is knowing that whatever you're doing is just as important as everything else.
Yeah, I think that's huge in a sense that you should know your role in a sense of what you fulfill for yourself, right? It's not a role of like what I have to do for other people so that people like me and that other people are happy for what I do for them. It's like, what do I do for myself to make myself happy? And so things like if you're not a specialist and that you are really generalizing your own trade, right? And then you're looking at someone else and being like, well, they're more successful than me. Well, now you got to look internally and be like, well, why are they more successful? Right? What can I do to be my own success in that sense? And maybe they really are the best, I don't know, like airline safety blogger in the nation. But there's other bloggers out there that are successful in other things that maybe you should find your own kind of specialty in that sense.
Let me ask you, do you believe in positive affirmations?
Yes.
Do you use them?
Yes. So I think of it not necessarily a positive affirmation. I think of it as training my brain. So it's a repetitive kind of practice that I do in whatever goal or emotion or intention that I have. So it's really just retraining my intentions.
I like that. What does a retraining of an intention example look like for you?
For me, okay, so I will be completely open about this. I have issues with driving, especially in the town that we're in, and being, a racer myself, my brain is going a million times faster than most people on the road. So having to deal with the emotions and the patience, like for me is patience. So that's something that when I am in the car, it's training my intention, right? Whether it's I'm at a stoplight and someone makes me miss the stoplight, I will take a breath and say, we will all get there. We don't need to all be there at, a certain amount of time. I'm already on the road. I can't affect that next 10, 15 minutes of my driving just because I can race around everyone else. So things like that where every single time, and it's really to sounds. For me, it's like different sounds. It's like when that car door shuts, it triggers something in my brain that says, okay, we're going to set the intention. It's things like when I turn on my electric toothbrush in the morning, that triggers an intention of, okay, let's set the day forward in a positive manner. Or today I need to get so much done. So this is like beast mode day, right? Things like that.
Nice. I like that. So give me some advice, or give some of our listeners some advice on some things that have really helped you to motivate you to get you to where you are right now.
Okay, so for me, it's kind of saying whatever that goal or dream or whatever is out loud to someone else. So I see it as I can plan out my entire year and say that I'm going to do some amazing stuff in my head or like just write it down. But once I tell it to someone else, A, it's in the universe. So now I know that intention is out there. So someone else might grab it and do it. And then B, once I told someone else, now they're relying on me to follow through. So I see it as the more people I tell of whatever major thing I want to do or what major goal I want to accomplish, then, oh crap, well, I just told all these people, so I better do it.
I like that. So I got to have you on again, for sure.
Yay. Yes, totally.
I look forward to it. And where can listeners find the Rebel Role Model?
All right. So first and foremost, rebelrolemodel.com. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube at Rebel Role Model. Very simple. We kind of own all the Rebel Role Model space out there. And then from there, we're actually this 2018 going to have RebelCon coming up this year. No dates have been announced yet, but it's going to be huge. It's basically going to be a concert Coachella style with a TED Talk style type of awesome, disruptive entrepreneur speakers.
Nice. Cool. I hope to be one of those speakers.
I'm sure you will.
Yay! I can't wait. So I can't wait to have you back on. And in the meantime, check out Rebel Role Model. Nancy's got some amazing stuff going on in the space, and I'm looking forward to finding out more, being part of it more, and having more conversations.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
Can't wait to see you again in the studio. Well, there you go. I think it's interesting when we do things our own way, when we think outside of the box, when we choose to live a life that, well, to some people seems insane. You know, it's all about that. And I think that when we get into that space and we realize it's all good and that we can do what we want to some degree, we create some amazing, amazing creations that we can, well, you can step back and admire eventually. But in the process, it's a lot of work. Stay tuned. I have a great show coming up for you next. And in the meantime, you know, live your true life perspectives with me, your host, Ashley Berges. We'll be back this time. I'll be back this time. Well, you know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.
La aventura tiene un nuevo nombre, Nissan Rogue Rock Creek. Con la Rogue Rock Creek estarás listo para conquistar el camino que venga. Si es una ruta rocosa, tienes llantas todoterreno. Ante una gran bajada, control para descenso inclinado y su parrilla tubular para techo, lista para lo que necesites. Cuando la vida te ofrece aventura, tú tienes la Nissan Rogue Rock Creek. La capacidad de carga está limitada por el peso y la distribución. Siempre asegure la carga. Cargar el vehículo con mucho peso, especialmente en el techo, afectará el manejo y la estabilidad del vehículo. La aventura tiene un nuevo nombre, Nissan Rogue Rock Creek. Con la Rogue Rock Creek estarás listo para conquistar el camino que venga. Si es una ruta rocosa, tienes llantas todoterreno. Ante una gran bajada, control para descenso inclinado y su parrilla tubular para techo, lista para lo que necesites. Cuando la vida te ofrece aventura, tú tienes la Nissan Rogue Rock Creek. La capacidad de carga está limitada por el peso y la distribución. Siempre asegure la carga. Cargar el vehículo con mucho peso, especialmente en el techo, afectará el manejo y la estabilidad del vehículo.